If you look in the mirror, the speed different to mill deeps. Reversing the time and the speed limit is not all as it seems. Shit, even the weed different. In search for stimulation, scratches and knee itching. Yearning for knowledge and understanding as a man. So you understand that to survive is always to advance. And sometimes this life that we live seems to advance, to cling to every chance and breathe so we can stand. Then again, can you really live without a challenge? One needs the other. Everything requires balance, and that time is now. So sit back and listen and realize that me and you are no different. We human beings who always adding chapters to our story. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Endless Purgatory.
Yo, welcome. This is Tamil Deep's IOC bringing another episode of Endless Purgatory. Today we have a special guest on, Kane. How you doing today, Kane? What's going on?
All right, brother. Can't complain. How about yourself, man?
Doing pretty good. I can't complain. Anything gonna do me no good anyway.
Right.
But, anyway, I wanted to give this opportunity for people to, promote themselves and promote other people and so on and so forth, to get an opportunity to tell them more about themselves and what they do, and that their voice is just as important as everybody else's in the world. So, with that being said, Kane, tell me a little bit about yourself.
All right. I'm a Minneapolis, Minnesota native, from North Minneapolis to be exact. As you all know, there's been a whole bunch of stuff that's been going around here. So, people first hear Minneapolis and they go, man, that's the place, George Floyd. I'm like, yeah, man, we ain't even got to talk about that no more. We ain't even got to talk about that, man. But, with the demographic being, what it is, I wanted to take advantage of the opportunity to change the narrative of what it looks like to be from Minneapolis, especially from the north side. Being an African-American male here, I definitely wanted to change the viewpoints of how people see, our North Minneapolis native. I graduated from Edison High School. Straight from Edison High School, I went to the Army 2 weeks after I graduated. Did 10 and a half years, retired as a staff sergeant, few deployments, came back home to join my father in the Minneapolis Fire Department, who's been a fire captain for over 20 years now. So I felt like it was the best opportunity to transition over from, active duty military and get things kicked off with the fire department. So, in the meantime, I'm just getting everything established here back home with my wife and kids. My wife I've been with for roughly 11 years now. 2 boys, one 14-year-old, one 7-year-old. And
That's definitely dope, man. I appreciate you sharing that. Would you say, your father being in a fire department, was that motivation for you to want to do it as well?
Absolutely. I don't even think it was necessarily the fire department piece. It was having some sense of purpose and substance, whatever that looks like. It may not necessarily be the fire department. It could be anything. But I wanted to make sure that whatever I decided to do, it was going to leave a lasting impact on not only my family's name and the legacy that we're trying to, establish and build for generations to come, but who I am, as a North Minneapolis native, and making whatever contributions that I can for the generations that are growing up and they need someone to look up to as far as a role model and how a person represents and carry themselves. And I want to make sure I do my due diligence to make sure that I'm carrying that, however that looks like. So
yeah, most definitely. Now, Kane is also in the music. Kane is the one that does my intro for the podcast that you hear. And I'll make sure I'm going to run that every single time so you can always hear his voice every time I run it, because that's a dope intro. And I appreciate it, man.
I appreciate you, man. It was definitely.
Anybody that sits down. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, you good.
I'm about to say, anybody that sits down and listens to the lyrics, he definitely carried the embodiment of the episode and what it represents, and I definitely appreciate it. You took the time to pay attention to everything, as far as, without me even having to tell you, everything. You caught, what the name meant and everything, and you just completely just embrace what the podcast represent and the name. And I appreciate that, for real.
Man, no, thank you. It is definitely a privilege to be able to contribute to something that is your baby, something that you
Oh yeah,
invest your time and energy in, and for me to be able to be a part of that, to support that vision and to help it grow in any way I can. I'd be remiss if I sat here idle and not, did something that was going to give, people a reason to be drawn in
yeah.
to such a big thing like this. So it was my pleasure.
I appreciate it for real. Like you don't know how many times I've gotten people to send me a message, be like, "Yo, that intro was fire." You're like, "Man, yo, my boy hit me up." So I'm always humble every time people send me messages and stuff like that because I know where I got it from, and how much heart you put into it, and the care you put into it. And I definitely appreciate it. But
Absolutely.
I do want to go ahead and get into the topics. I first wanted to start it off with faith. Now, the topics of this episode is going to be faith, achievements, and consistency. And we're definitely going to get into consistency. But faith. Now, faith. Many people have different feelings as far as faith and have their own different perspective on what they feel towards faith. But as far as your feelings, like what are your feelings on faith? It doesn't necessarily have to be religious, and it can be if you want it to be, but I just want to know your feelings about it.
Well, firstly, I can only base it off of my own experiences. You can look at a textbook definition of what faith means. You can Google it or whatever. But based off of my personal experience growing up, I have grown up in a Christian-based environment. My father is, a devout Christian, very knowledgeable, and throughout the years, that is something that I looked at how he carried himself, what he modeled his lifestyle and his day to day off of, and my mother as well. She also is a Christian as well, so. I think there was pros and cons to that when I was growing up because, as a child, if you got in trouble, every, punishment was like grounded in like some type of biblical understanding, whether, I didn't have the regular, 100 sentences, I will not steal, or I will not lie. It would be thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. You like, wait a minute, dude. I'm only in first grade. Calm down. You know what I'm saying? But
like, I know I'm in trouble, but dang, you have to hit me with that. Like, you feel extra bad.
Yeah, man. So like, for me, as I've grown older, in transitioning into my teenage years, that started to fall off a little bit because, at one point I felt like it was being forced and shoved down my throat, and it wasn't something that I personally wanted. I see my parents doing it, but then they're shoving this down my throat, and in turn it made me stray away from God altogether.
I completely understand that.
And doing my own thing and relying on my own strength. And then when I got older, I got married. Got married at roughly 20 years. Married at 20 years old, man. Shortly after I joined the Army, and I didn't really know what that meant, what it embodied, what it represented, and the responsibilities that came along with that. So, I was relying on what I knew, what I saw on TV, other people's experiences, what to do, what not to do, and stuff like that. And ultimately, over time, it started to not work. It wasn't as effective or anything like that.
It wasn't necessarily organic. You was kind of pretty much piggybacking off of what you saw from everybody else.
Yeah, you just freestyling and like you going off of what you see, what you have observed. You see things that has worked in marriages. You see things that has failed in marriages, and you're trying to cherry pick that and apply it to your own life, but you're not taking into account the characteristics and other personalities that was involved in stuff like that. So it's not going to be applicable to you in some aspects. But I did that to a point where my marriage almost ended a few years back because I had this mentality that I'm going to figure out how to do it myself,
Yeah, it wasn't
and
able to
that's
be
not
organic, and pretty much,
exactly
you was pretty much taking the embodiment from other people, and you was injecting it into your own relationship, your own marriage, and you wasn't giving it a chance to pretty much build on itself, understand the person, understand yourself before combining two individuals into
right,
one.
right, right. Yeah, man. And one of the biggest turning points for me was going back to everything that I have grown up to know, and
Oh yeah,
having that conversation with my father, and him saying like, man, you know the way, you know exactly what you needed to do. To a certain extent, I understand why you strayed away from what you was taught, because you had to walk your own path and go through your own traumatic experiences and events to find to find God again. And for me, that was really the turning point when I went to God, and I'm like, look, I don't even know what to do at this point. Like, I'm on the verge of losing my family. I'm at odds with what my future looks like, because at the time, I was a staff sergeant, getting ready to either drop a warrant officer packet or promote to the next rank, and really give my life to the Army. And I knew that with giving my life to the Army, I was going to ultimately have to sacrifice my family
sacrifice. Yeah,
to do
it's a lot of
that. And
sacrifice.
and that was a huge crossroads for me. And that was something that I could not rely on my own knowledge and understanding to do. Once I went to God about that and prayed about it, and cried many nights about it, the Lord was like, you know what? Trust me. Put all of the stuff that's beyond your control in my hands, and I'll take it from here, right? And at that point, things started to become a little bit more clear, but there's just naturally some other things that you're not going to be able to see until you reach that other side, or you reach the end game, and you're like, okay, now this is all finally making sense. It's all coming full circle and stuff like
Yeah,
that. But that is where faith starts to come in, right? Faith
yeah,
is, you hear it, you've heard it in songs, you heard it in churches, walking by faith and not by sight. It's easy to look at what's in front of you right now, and you have a whole bunch of questions, right? And faith is the deterrent to anxiety, right?
yeah.
Um, when you're anxious and you're in that state where you got, a million and one questions, and you can't seem to find an answer to any of those questions, that's where you have to get to a point where you like, you know what, I'm not going to be able to find this answer either right now or at all, but I'm okay with that. I'm going to
Some,
put. Go ahead.
I'm about to say some people have a hard time, really putting their all into faith because maybe they feel like, like why do I have to go through so many trials in life just to get a blessing? Some people actually think about that or
Man,
live through that. And they're
yeah.
like, man, I'm going through so much. Like I done did enough. I done been through enough. Why am I still having to continue to go through something? Like what is there? Like why should I keep putting so much faith into something that you may feel like is never gonna come?
Man, that's a good question. I think one of the biggest things for me was getting out of this space where I was looking to get some type of positive feedback or looking for a reward for me doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, oh, you see that? I'm doing
Yeah,
good, right? I'm doing
yeah,
good, right? So, pat me on the back, acknowledge, right? And
yeah.
that's not, and that's really, based off of the wrong things, right? Like the best way to put it is, you want to be able to do that because you know that at the end of the day it's going to give you a sense of peace. If you have responsibilities as a husband, as a father, as a provider, that is your primary goal. It's not looking for a pat on the back. It's not looking for acknowledgement, because if we sat there and we was waiting for that, we'd be waiting for a long time, and a lot of cats around here would be super pissed off. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
you find a lot of males, especially black males, in that position because we're trying to
Some
change
of us
this.
have expectations. We feel like
Yeah,
we're entitled,
yeah,
very
we're
entitled.
we're, we're entitled, and most don't realize we already are in a fixed fight. On how the general public views us and portrays us, we're a threat to this society. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? However we do, we can have all the success in the world and have all of these achievements and accomplishments and whatnot, and it means absolutely nothing to the general public. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
you're a black man, and you can carry yourself a certain way, and when you're out of public, you still got those people that bat an eye, like, what are you
Yeah,
doing
it's
here?
an automatic
You
judgment.
know
It's
what I
already a
mean? So
stereotype,
yeah, and
already put in
that's
a box
yeah, man, and that's and that's
automatically.
and that's an overwhelming thing. So, with that, that's another thing that you have to, pour into, um, this basket, and give it to God to be like, you know what, there's some things that I'm not going to understand, that I don't have the answers for, that are beyond my
Mhm.
control, but the things that are within my control, I'm going to solely focus on that, and and do what I need to do in order to be effective,
Yeah.
24/7, 100%, you know.
Now, I've
So,
had a hard time. I will admit, I've had a hard time myself. Really putting myself in a space to, rely on faith because I feel like, what am I doing? Where is it going to lead to eventually at some point? And it's scary, like where you finally get to that point where you're humbled right away.
mhm.
You just go through so much and so much and so much, and you're just like, man, like, where does this stop? Where
Yeah,
does it stop and where does it start? To begin to get better. And then I think I had to get to that point where I just started to not worry about it, where I had to kind of just like spiritually just kind of release my mind and just be like, look, I can sit here and allow my body to feel tense, my head feel like it's about to explode by worrying about so much stuff that I probably don't even have too much control over.
mhm.
And then the biggest control was just trying not to worry. And once I got control over not worrying so much, I'm like, okay, you know what? Whatever's gonna happen, it's gonna happen either way.
Right.
Whether I got control over it or not. Why don't I just enjoy the fact that I'm alive? Why don't I just enjoy what I have and just make the most of it? And
Man,
then
look.
once I started doing that, things,
Yeah.
my eyes just started opening up to different things and doors just started opening out of nowhere. I'm like, okay, that was it. I get it now.
That was it, man. A couple of things that you said, that really stood out to me, and what I, model my whole day to day by is humble or be humble, right?
Hmm.
You have the opportunity to humble yourself whenever you choose, but we carry a huge sense of pride, you know, when it comes to our name, when it comes to just who you are and how you carry yourself.
The image.
Yeah, the image, that is everything to the average human being, and if they don't have that, then a lot of people struggle with their identity or who they really are. You know what I
Right.
mean? And
Right.
that's really a prideful thing. It's really to the point where you have to question if such a prideful thing is detrimental to who you are,
Hmm.
as a man, as a father, as a husband. You know what I mean? And some people are consumed, by this persona or this sense of pride, to where they lose themselves in the process. They don't know who they are. So it's a
Exactly
double
right.
edged sword. Yeah, there has to be balance. Um,
That does have to
but
be
man,
balanced.
there is, um, um, a huge, benefit to having faith in the eye of a storm. Personally, as you know, man, I have endured good things, and I have endured bad things, and they've come simultaneously. Um, what's crazy is, I am in a point of my life where I'm faced with, very dire and serious situations, man.
Hmm.
Um, and if you don't mind, I'd like to share that, on
Yeah,
this
you
platform.
can go ahead, man. I didn't know
Um,
if you was comfortable with that, but
man,
yeah, you
man,
good,
I'm
man.
here, man. Um, Last year, almost a year ago, today, 5 days away from the anniversary, I was involved in a four-car accident, man, and
Mm.
unfortunately, someone lost their life in that accident, that I crashed into. Um, and there was an internal investigation that went on for about a year. And a couple of months ago, I got a phone call saying, "Hey, you're being, formally charged with criminal vehicular homicide." And you're talking about somebody that just recently retired out of the army that's trying to start, their life as a civilian, something that they don't know how to do because again, I graduated from high school and went straight into the military. So that was something that I only, that's all I knew. So it was already a scary thing to go back into, a world that you don't even know how to navigate in. And, less than a couple of months after you get out of the army, you're involved in a very tragic and unfortunate situation. And, all of a sudden, your world gets turned upside down because they're like, you know what? Hey, we're putting this on you because, you're, there was something that you had did that contributed to the accident that may be deemed as a distracted driving. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're like, in a place where you can melt down, you can, just completely just lose yourself in that situation, man.
You could.
And I personally could not do that because the responsibility of being a husband and a father never leaves, regardless of what situation you in.
No.
And in that very moment, everybody is looking at you when they're like, you're saying all of these things where things are good. You recently purchased a brand new house that was built from the ground up. You get a retirement disability check from the VA for the rest of your life. Your kids and your wife is taken care of with college.
All of these things that
like all of these things, right? And right. And so, like, some people get in a place where they get complacent, and when things are going good, you hear them saying, God this, God that, pray, have faith and all this other stuff. But what about situations like this one? You know what I mean? That's where everybody's looking like, okay, let's see if that faith is really going to work, or if it's really working. And in essence, that's really a test of faith right there to see
I was just about
all
to say,
all of the things that you have learned and all of the faith and the trust that you have accumulated over time. How is it going to fare when it comes to situations like these, right?
Mm-hmm.
And on the outside, a lot of people look at my situation and like, man, this is a very unfortunate that you have to go through this because everyone who knows who I am, they know, like, man, if it was in his control, he would not be in this situation. You know what I mean? And there was everything that I felt that I have done, to avoid situations like this. And and a lot of people will say that I don't deserve it, but at the end of the day, man, we don't deserve a lot of things. You know what I mean? And God, sacrificed himself in order for us to avoid the biggest penalty, which is eternal hell. And I firmly believe that. You know what I'm saying? So, I could look at this situation and take it serious, but at the same time have a sense of peace, because if I don't have that sense of peace, then I'm not going to be, as effective as I should be. And everyone who looks to me to be, a leader, a provider, or someone that they look to, that they look to as motivation, and God has put that on my heart to be that. If I fall apart, then what? You know what I mean?
Peace is definitely something that I feel like peace is more valuable to me than money, than anything else. Like, I value my peace more than anything. My mental. I can't do anything for anybody if I don't got this together at all. If I don't got that, if I don't got my mind together, I can't do nothing for nobody. And like I said, I definitely appreciate you sharing that. That's big. I mean, when you first told me about it, it weighed heavy on me, and I was like, man, like, out of all people, like, yo, out of all people, you've done so much, you did so much, you do so much for people, and this. So it's good that you keep yourself together, you keep your head together, and you keep yourself motivated, and you continue to have that faith, because you know that, it's just a testament for you later on. It's just a test for you to pretty much understand like, yo, look, at any time it could be gone.
Man, you could be dealt a bad hand, man. That's
Yeah.
really one of the main things for me, with everything is, we are so quick to look at one negative thing that comes in the way and fail to overlook the immense amount of positive things that has happened. I can say since I moved back here to Minnesota, I've been reunited with my oldest son, who I was absent in most of his life because I was serving in the army. And being able to come back at a time where he needs me the most, where he's about to start high school in the fall. And I know where I was in high school, as a freshman, and shoot, having him as a freshman, in high school. So, there's a lot of things that he's going to be, encountering that I want to make sure I have, a handover and being able to provide guidance, but at the same time, being able to let him walk his own path, as a parent, I'm not that type of parent that want to be overshadowing or a micromanager and stuff like that, because he's growing into his own, man. I can walk, I can walk with you and show you, hey, this is what I would suggest you to do. You know what I mean? And you can look at, my previous situation.
I would, I ain't gonna tell you how to do it, but
right.
I'm just saying what I did. I would suggest you not do it, but you know what I'm saying?
I do in this situation, you know what I mean? And you kind of got to back off of it, because at the end of the day, they're gonna make their own decision. But again, I say all that to say that you have to be honest with yourself. You know what I mean? And with those
accountability.
Man, yeah, and with those good things, there are going to come bad things. It's really going to test, out who you are. Everything isn't going to be all, grapes and roses, man. There's going to be some thorns. There's going to be some bloodshed. You know what I mean? There's going to be a situation where you like, man, I don't even know how I got myself in this situation. Like, what are you trying to teach me at this moment? And it's really humility. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can scream up and down how we don't feel like we deserve the stuff that we're dealing with. I could have taken my situation and been like, man, I don't deserve this, man. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, that's still a sense of pride. And, if anything, how am I carrying myself, or what am I teaching my kids? And when they're faced with a situation like this, am I going to hold my head up high? Am I going to give all of my issues to God and let him work things out that are beyond my control? Because this is indeed a situation that's beyond my control. You know what I mean? But prayer, and building a rhythm that's going to keep you busy and just simply enjoying what's in front of you, man. Your family, your kids, the things that you have been able to obtain, as an adult. That's what they're there for, and that's what God has blessed you with, man. So, sitting in a state of bitterness and having your heart hardened because of what was done to you. And
all that negativity.
You see people that don't ever recover from it. You see your parents, your grandparents, they're fixed a certain way. They have a stuck old school mentality. You know what I mean? And they stay that way until they die. You know what I mean? And it's a little bit more difficult when you find yourself in a position where you have the ability to change, the direction, just the direction your family has always went, and there was never one person that stepped forward and been like, man, don't anybody see like this?
Yeah, it's an obvious problem. Like, nobody sees
this don't
this,
look
right?
right. Everybody going along with this current because everybody else is doing it. But what if I was that person that stepped forward and went the opposite way? Like, you know what? It's okay to be in tune with your feelings. It's okay to be honest with yourself and to acknowledge that as a man, we, carry ourselves a certain way, and we got to have this, this straight look on our face. But behind that is a whole bunch of pain. There's a whole bunch of misunderstandings. There's a whole bunch of questions and whatnot that
constant questions
that you're demanding answers for, and then nobody has them for you. And you find yourself in a position where you can't even enjoy your kids growing up. You know what I mean?
That's big. Yeah.
Seen and heard many people, who has been so caught up in their trauma and the issues in their past, to where they have literally not seen, 7 to 8 years of their kids growing, and one day they're just a teenager walking in front of
Yeah,
them. You know what I
you're right.
mean?
That trauma does affect a lot of people, and that definitely goes into a whole nother topic I want to tap into, but that's a big rabbit hole as
Yeah,
far as
yes, sir.
trauma, past trauma, and things we deal with. Stuff that we've grown up seeing that bled into how we are as individuals, as people, even as especially in the black community. Things that we deal with that we find ourselves in a position that we're just kind of repeating the process, but it just really just takes the individual to kind of break that and and build something different. It doesn't have to be exactly what the norm, what everybody seems like, like why you do this or why you do that. Like, no, I'm gonna do this different. I'm gonna show, my son or my daughter, there's a different way you can be. I don't gotta lash out and whoop you every time something happens.
Absolutely.
I can talk to you. I want you to understand why this happened. I want you to understand why, I have to take all your stuff away, or, and what you did was wrong, and
Absolutely.
understand respect. I'm gonna respect you, and I want the same respect back. So I'm gonna respect you by talking to you like a human being, like a person that does understand, that can comprehend, because I know you're intelligent. Plus,
Absolutely,
you're
and
my blood. You definitely
man,
be smart
that's the
anyway.
biggest thing that we have to instill into our children now, because we've grew up in an era where our parents whooped our ass and asked questions last, right?
hmm
And in some situations, they ask the questions and it comes to not even be our fault. And they like, damn, I done
Like,
reacted.
what I
Yeah, you
do?
reacted, off of something that, was second nature, or what you've grown up
hmm
in, and you pass that into the next generation. So, we have grown up to where we've experienced it with our own kids, but then we have this sense of where it's like, man, there's got to be another method to this, because
Yeah.
I don't like how I feel when I have to, chastise my kids, or I have
I
to
don't like.
resort to
I don't.
corporal,
I feel like I shouldn't have
yeah,
to. I don't want to.
resort to corporate punishment and stuff like that. Like, I don't need to do that. And understand, getting them to understand what's the big lesson out of this. What is
hmm
something that you have to carry with you when you get older and you have your own kids and pass it on to you? Are you going to show them that it's okay to resort to putting your hands on somebody, or resorting to any type of violence or aggression towards something when you get frustrated, or if you get disappointed? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And that really, um, that really can't happen unless you look at yourself internally and point out those things that a lot of people may think it's okay, but it really isn't, especially in today's
Yeah.
society. They eat your ass up
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah. They definitely. But I wanna.
uh,
I definitely wanna. I wanna talk a little bit more about, as far as like the good things in life, as far as just having kids, or just having things that you have that you've gained along the way, regardless of whatever has happened. There's great things that you've been able to achieve, and be able to prosper in and be able to enjoy. So I wanted to get into that. I wanted to get into as far as achievements. And I think at times a lot of people downplay accomplishments or achievements in life, and I feel like a win is a win, regardless.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's
No
like,
matter what
just
you
because of
can
the
get
just
there.
because of the circumstance, big or small, it's like, you won,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of how big or small it is. You won. But maybe I feel like maybe we as people, um, we allow past issues in life, but in life to pretty much make us downplay those achievements. So
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk to you a little bit more about your achievements, and a lot of things that you're happy for, and a lot of things you're appreciative for. So what are things you feel like is some of your major achievements, your major accomplishments?
Man, I am a 30-year-old African American male from North Minneapolis who has achieved and accomplished so much while serving my country in the United States Army, and being able to truly reap the benefits of that, you know, um, just 10 and a half years later. And not only for me, because I think, the victory would be a little bit less sweet, or it would be less sweet if my family wasn't here to also reap the benefits and rewards of what I've been able to achieve and accomplish, because that's what it's about, especially when you devote your life to being a father and a husband. And mind you, I've been saying that since this podcast has started.
Yeah,
Father and a husband, man,
it's
because
important.
that's what we
Yeah,
are. And and like I said, you know, you're having a conversation with two people who is navigating this life as a black husband and father every day. You know what I mean? And a lot of people don't know, what to
they
do,
don't
but
appreciate that
they
struggle. They
don't they
don't
don't
appreciate that
appreciate
mutual
it, man.
understanding. Like, look, I just got to do what I got to do for mines, and
Absolutely. And
it's a
like you said, it's a lot of people, they look at the influences of social media nowadays. That's another contributor to where like a lot of people think that you're supposed to reach a certain point at a certain age, and they see other people that's achieved like these big accomplishments, and then you try to compare your own achievements to what they
Now
have
you can't
done.
do
It
that.
seems minuscule. You know what I mean?
You looking at it
Yeah,
wrong.
and he was like, man, too, you have different pathways, different methods, different resources,
Yeah,
that you
different
use to get to a
upbringings,
certain point. But that's what makes your own life unique in someone
unique.
else's eyes to see what else, to see what you have accomplished. But man, I
Hmm.
could look back at where I was 10 to 12 years ago and not having a clear conscience of where I was going to be at 30 years old. And I look at it now. I moved in my brand new house a few weeks ago. Being a homeowner.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Being a homeowner at 30 years old is a very uncommon thing to achieve as an African American male. You know what I mean? And looking at the home ownership rate with African Americans, we're the lowest percentage of African
Lowest, yeah,
American, yeah,
that's
the
low.
lowest percentage of minorities that are homeowners, and to be a part of that percentage that that has achieved home ownership, period, not at just any age. You know what I mean? Is a blessing in itself.
Yeah.
Um,
A
and
lot of
and
it's the mind state, and as far as like some people not understanding that they can do certain things and not able to, put themselves in a position that like, like just okay, they they automatically put themselves in a mentality that like that's something they're not even gonna achieve. But
mhm.
you can, just given the knowledge, just like just like us, just two individuals just talking about it, bringing it up. Like it doesn't. You don't have to have, you know, anybody can do it. Anybody, any African American man, woman can do it. It's achievable. It's definitely achievable.
Absolutely. Um, and like I said, like I could look at just the material things that I have been blessed with, but really the biggest gift and achievement is being able to sit back and look at, my family just being able to reap the benefits and enjoy that, and taking that gift to where I go on my day to day. I am I do security at different sites, and one of the main sites that I go to is public schools, and I had the opportunity to pour into like middle school kids, especially the African American males that are
That's
grown up in
huge, man.
broken
That's so
homes,
huge.
that that they see the influences of social media with the influence of just drill music, and and trying to live this lifestyle that they have no idea of how to even navigate through these things. So you don't have to be that person, you know what I mean? And they need somebody to look at and be like, okay, well, what makes you different from everybody else? You know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
I only see a quote unquote rent a cop, right? And so what you see, but then
yeah.
you look at, all of these, I pull out, my iPad or something, show them, pictures of, what I've been able to see and traveling around the world, and being a part of an organization that's really, a eye-opening experience depending
Hmm.
on, how you use it. You know what I mean? And being like, yeah, I've seen life outside of, the environment that I've grown up in,
Yeah,
because I knew that there was something bigger
that's something
outside of
more.
that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And really like getting them to open their minds up and look at, okay, I need to just like unlearn some things and look at, what he did to get to this position, because I want to be able to get to that level as well,
yeah.
if I can, so
That's
that in
big.
itself is an achievement, to
Yeah,
me.
that's major, and I
Mhm.
appreciate you for sharing that also, because that's like you're providing this mentorship to somebody that that might necessarily have that knowledge or may not see a different light in a sense, and you provided something to them like, look, yo, it ain't got to stop here. You don't have to go in this direction because that's what you're used to seeing. There's something greater out there. There's something more. Just because you see, quote unquote, like I said, a runner cop, doesn't mean that I haven't done so much more. I haven't
Right.
achieved so much more. I can do so much more. You can do so much more. And sometimes it takes showing somebody that you can do something, versus where like they started, because a lot of times people want to feel like they want to feel comfortable that, okay, oh, you're just this person that you know life didn't give it to you. No, look, man, I started from here.
Yeah.
I've had nothing. And I woke up one day and said, look, I don't want this no more. I want something better. I want to achieve better. I want to do better. You can do it too.
Absolutely.
Here's how.
Absolutely. And I think the biggest thing for me is being able to be to a point where it's just like I have the choice if I want to work. You know what I'm saying? Being able to be in that phase where, I can do what I do and a lot of people complaining or whatever. And I could be like, you know what, if I don't want to, I don't have to. I could just be at the crib chilling and just sit on this retirement check. But at the end of the day, I'm like, man, I'm 30 years old, man. I'm too young to live a retired life, and just sit around, because we need a sense of purpose still. You know what I mean? And we're always going to yearn and want that, regardless on the age. You know what I mean? A lot of people are 60 something years old that lives a fully retired life. And it's driving them nuts because they're just sitting at the crib,
do something,
or they just traveling.
Like, man, I remember I used to do this back when.
Yeah, man, and again, that's the influence of social media and them saying that you should retire at this age, and you should be able to be at this point where you can enjoy this and that. And some people, it just is not applicable to some people. Some people want to work for the rest of their life. That's okay. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's okay for them. I don't. You know what I'm saying? At some point, I want to just be able to chill, and like I said, have that option. I don't want to necessarily have to feel, obligated to somebody telling me, like, yeah, you're going to come in at 9 o'clock?
Right.
Look, like,
Yeah.
I'm not built for that.
Yeah.
I definitely am the type of person that, I want to feel like I want to be, my own boss. I want to feel like I have my own choice as far as what I want to do, as far as things. And it's not nothing against nobody that are comfortable living like that. People do what they do. They live how they live. That's their choice. Me, no. But, it's nothing wrong with that at the same time for anybody with whatever decision you decide to go with. But just allowing yourself to have options. There's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely.
Nothing wrong with that at all. And I feel like a lot of times people in life create habits, as far as or positive patterns, all of which was built towards consistency.
Absolutely.
And consistency is something that I feel like, I've learned a lot from you when it comes to consistency. And I understand it's something that is not something that you necessarily can just it's just built in certain people. It's something that you can learn, it's not something that you necessarily can, learn from somebody else. You can observe it and try to build it on yourself, but you have to want to be consistent. And that's another thing. That's another topic I wanted to get into as far as consistency, because you got so many people. They consistently log into social media all day, every day.
Right.
They consistently open that Blue app or that Instagram app, and faithfully post something, share something, like something, whatever, and it's cool. But what are you contributing?
Man,
to your own.
Yeah, man. Consistency is universal in everything that you do, whether it's contributing into something positive or contributing to something that's negative and toxic. And everybody, me personally, I feel that everybody has consistency. It's a matter of what are you being consistent in? You know what I mean? Are you being consistent in waking up at a certain time in the morning to get some physical fitness in, to work out, to eat a certain breakfast, to get your mind right and focused on, what is there to achieve and accomplish for the day, for the week, for the month, you know what I mean? And it really, there's an unlimited, level of thinking to where, you can apply that consistency in the certain things. As for myself, my consistency, over the past few years has just been uh, physical health. And looking at the rate of African Americans that has a very short lifespan because of what they consume, what they eat, what they drink, their lack of exercise, the improper dieting and stuff like that. And a few years back, I was about 27, 28 years old that dealt with a lot of depression and anxiety and and a lot of unaddressed traumatic events as a child. And I relied on drinking, and that was something I consistently did, right? And that consistency ballooned me up to 250 pounds one day,
Johnny
right?
boy.
Yeah, man, for real. And you when you get in that point where you like just look in the mirror one day and you see the Michelin tires on your side, you having chest pains, you know what I'm saying? You like, yo, this ain't the wave, man. So like my 2019 deployment to Kuwait, I needed to focus and build and establish a rhythm for myself that was going to give me tunnel vision, because anybody that has been deployed before know, man, you got to have some type of rhythm established, or you not going to make it all the way to the end. You see a lot of cats, dealing with, suicide or having like, mental breakdowns because the deployment life is too much for some people to bear. And, that's not a situation that, you count on yourself to get through, man. You need the help of your friends and your family and your loved ones to carry you through to that other side. So for me, it was my father, really who played a huge piece of me overcoming my third and final deployment in 2019. And that really was based off of having that godly foundation and building consistency in that by getting up, praying, by reading the word, you know what I mean, and and asking yourself, what is something that I can do today that builds into that consistent lifestyle pattern that I'm trying to live. And that starts to pour into the physical aspect. I wake up in the morning at 4:45 and hop on a treadmill for an hour, hit my push-ups, work on my muscle groups Monday through Friday, you know what I mean, and eat the right things throughout the week, you know what I mean. So when the weekend come, I can eat whatever I want, you know what I mean, or do whatever I want.
That consistency, I'm not gonna lie. I know it's definitely something tough. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I probably started and stopped the gym so many doggone times I can't even count. But I'm still working on it. I feel like I still have the drive to want to, and I feel like as long as I keep trying, I'm gonna build that consistency at some point. And I feel like a lot of times some people, they be so quick to give up because what they feel like is something that they're contributing to, it's just not working maybe as fast as they want to. It's going to take time. Man. Just like you go into the gym, you're not going to see those gains. Like you didn't get how you get overnight. You got how you got overnight. You know? So it's building that same consistency. And it's not going to take like the next day or a week from now, a month from now. You may not see them gains till later, but it's just appreciating them gains and using that as motivation to keep going.
Yeah, man. Just enjoying. Everything seems to be such a task nowadays with some people. They like, man, I want to be able to achieve and accomplish this, and it needs to be done at this time and by this day. And so what happens when you reach that time period and you don't make it? You don't reach your goals. Yeah. Then what? Then you see a lot of people. That's when they start checking out. Like, you know what? All right, I'm done. You know what I'm saying? I'm back to drinking. This is, I'm back to doing some BS that I probably shouldn't do. You know what I mean?
Not contributing to anything positive.
It's contributing to anything, to something negative or a early death. You know what I'm saying? If you keep it in the buck, so like, man, have fun. Life is too short to be sitting here trying to check the blocks and have a structured pattern to where like you're so driven by it, you fail to see what's, going on in front of you. You know what I mean? And even that requires a consistent train of thinking, a consistent train of positive thinking, You know what I mean? If I
Or
wake
even
up
surrounding yourself by people that have that
that
same
has that
mentality.
same mentality. Absolutely,
Yeah.
man. And a lot of people, they attract themselves to a lot of toxicity because they navigate like that day by day. So when they see the influences of social media and people posting, some BS or whatever, they're going to attract to that and think whatever they're doing is okay. But then it's like, well, what about the people that's actually posting something positive, that's posting something insightful? You know what I
No, you
mean?
don't get
That's not
that.
going to be as attractive. You know what I mean? Like, man, what
No.
is this nigga talking about? Get him
That's
out of
gonna
here.
get you're gonna scroll past that. You might look at
Exactly.
it for a little bit. It's gonna keep on
Right.
going.
They probably going, you know what? I don't want to see this. They can take it off of their wall. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But there's some people that has that same train of thinking, and those people that has decided, hey, I want to surround myself around people that are like this. Then naturally, there's going to be some negative things that or people that you felt like you have been cool with your whole life, and then when you
Whew.
change your whole mindset, like this is not working for me, and you're not necessarily in that relationship with that person at all. You like, hey man, you do what you do, but this is how I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna do it the right way. Some people, like, there's been many of people who I have just lost contact with just because, man, I decided, man, I don't want to be an unfaithful
Associate.
person anymore.
Yeah.
I don't want to be an unfaithful husband anymore. I want to be a father to my kids. I want to be, the man of God that God has called me to be. Everybody see me to be, and everybody looking at me like, they start drifting off and backing away because they like, I don't even know
They
how to
like,
even
man, this
relate
ain't.
to that.
But this ain't the dude that grew up. What you talking about? Like, this
Exactly.
is what we all just do.
Yeah, man.
Like,
And
what are
they
you
feel like they
doing?
completely just don't know that person because anyone who has known me when I was younger, I was a completely different person. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So like when they see, a calm, laid back Darren that is just sit back and observe versus the one that used to jump in everything with an aggressive approach, they like, man, who is this guy? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And even in my name, which was Kane, it was a shortened version of Novocaine, right? Which embodied someone who doesn't feel anything, no emotion, no pain, and stuff like that. And as I've grown older, like my name wasn't even who I was anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was shortened to Kane, right? And then Kane is broken down into killing all negative energy, right? And it takes will to do that. So that's where the
It's
name
dope.
Cain Will came
It's
from,
dope.
right? So that in itself, I had to completely,
Revamp.
reinvent myself. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And with that, it takes a consistent, you know, rhythm
Mindset.
and a schedule and a process to do that. And it's not going to be easy, man. It's going to be those days where you don't want to get up and do anything at all. You know what I
Like a
mean?
few days ago.
Exactly. You don't want to get up and do anything at all. You know what I mean? But those days are was really going to expedite the process. You know what I mean? And it makes those days coming a little bit more easier. So
I
yeah,
remember I
man.
used to ask you all the time, like, like, how do you do it, man? Like, how do you stay so consistent, And then I had to kind of sit back and think, like, yo, I can't get, I can get I can get kind of a blueprint of what it is to be consistent, but that all takes in within myself. Like, I have to be the one to do it. I can't, like, use you and say, like, okay, if I do exactly what Darren does, like, maybe I could be, no, I got to do what's good for me.
What caters to
And
you? Uh,
what's good for me, and what I can use to apply to keep myself in the pattern. Whether that means, instead of shaving my head every week, I shave it every 2 days. 2 days.
mhm.
Because I'm just gonna end up leading to procrastination if I say, like, okay, I'll do it a week from now, or I'll do it I'll do it tomorrow.
Right.
And I know myself, a lot of times I could procrastinate about a lot of things, but it's just like stopping that, breaking that habit, and then turning it into something different and building something that's more positive for me that actually can benefit me and my family, you know, moving forward. So it's just something that I feel like I definitely wanted to talk about, and I feel like it was really important, especially as black men, to kind of, I don't necessarily say preach that, but give a better understanding of what it means to just be better. and do better, and not just stick with the same old pattern, the same old BS of what you currently live with, or you just used to seeing all the time, and just understanding like, look, there's more out there, like we were talking about earlier. Having faith, appreciating your accomplishments, understanding consistency, and that you can do and be a better version than what the world is trying to put us out to be.
Absolutely, man. And
Especially as a man, especially as a black
yeah,
man.
man. And we have a responsibility and duty, to promote that. And like you said earlier, we don't necessarily have to apply the exact same thing to a T, because we're all our own different, people with different personalities and characteristics. But it can be used as a hell of a motivator to see somebody else out there that's, doing these things on a day to day, that's reaching these accomplishments, that's being a father to their kids, and being a good husband, and a good, provider and caretaker, and blessing others. You know what I mean? You get a greater joy of being a blessing to somebody else, rather than, doing things for your own selfish gain. And to see somebody else doing that, I'm not necessarily telling you this is what you need to be doing, but this is what brings me peace, and this is what brings me happiness, to where I can, have any obstacle that comes in my way and not be phased by it, because there's been much more positive things that has happened, and I've been able to bless others by doing that, and they can apply that to their own life. So
Exactly.
yeah,
It's
man.
surrounding yourself by more positive people. Surrounding yourself into an environment of people that truly do care about you, that believe in your intentions, that understand your goals, your passions, and everything moving forward. There is nothing wrong at all by cutting loose, all that toxicity, all that negative energy. There's nothing wrong with it at all. Just because you grew up with somebody, or you've been around somebody for so long, there's nothing wrong with just kind of waking up, wising up one day and saying like, look, man, this just ain't working no more. This ain't cutting it. Like, I'm getting nowhere. I'm not progressing in any kind of way. I gotta change something.
Absolutely.
And whether that, creates, cuts ties with people that you felt like, was gonna be there till the wheels fall off. It's like, look, you gotta do what you gotta do. You gotta do what's best for you. You gotta do what's best for your mind, for your own peace, your own sanity,
Absolutely.
and move forward. Because once you actually surround yourself by those people that have that same mindset, that same goals, the same passion that you do, you understand like, oh, this is what I've been thinking has been right the whole time. Like, this is how it's supposed to be. If you keep sharing negativity, you're only going to get more negativity. If you start sharing more positivity, you're going to receive more positivity. That's
Absolutely.
exactly why
Yeah.
I want to share, other people, what they have going on, other businesses, other black communities. It's a black communities of people that embrace just progression and not destruction.
Yeah,
It's easy to tear something down, but taking that time to build something up, something completely different, and then looking at the end product, and saying like, wow, we did that.
Absolutely.
We did that.
Yeah, man.
So I definitely want to say I appreciate you, you coming on, man. I really do. It's been
It's been a long
it's been
time
a
coming,
while.
man.
Yeah,
It's been a long time coming, man.
it's
And
been a
like I
long time
said, I
coming.
knew that, when the time was right and everything had, presented itself as an opportunity to get on, such an amazing platform, and what you
I
have
appreciate that.
just done, over time, and just seeing it grow by the day, man. I
And
definitely
being
wanted-
consistent.
and being consistent, man. I definitely wanted to make sure when that time was right that I was definitely going to come and contribute, in any way I can. And this will not be the last time you see my
Oh,
face here,
there's some more
so
stuff coming.
there's
Just wait,
definitely some more stuff coming, man. So I'm excited about that.
man. I definitely appreciate the time, and I appreciate you coming on for sure.
I appreciate
And look,
it, man.
it won't be the last time seeing your face on here at all. I'm gonna let people know now.
Absolutely.
Like I said, I got some more things coming on the way. But this has been Endless Purgatory podcast. I want to thank, like I said, I want to thank everybody for taking the time out to listen, to taking the time out to to watch if you're watching the video version. and taking the time out to hear our Kane and everything he got going on as far as his story and what he got going on. And I want anybody that has a story, anybody that has anything they want to promote, come on, the door is open. Just like I said, just send me a message on Facebook at Endless Purgatory Podcast, or if you're on Twitter, it's at @TimothyDeeps_ILC, and on Instagram is at TimothyDeeps_ILC. But like I said, this has been Endless Purgatory Podcast. My tongue is all over the place. Before we go, there's always something I want to say. Stay safe, stay sane, and secure your mind. And Kane, I definitely appreciate your time. I appreciate your service. And I appreciate you being you, man.
All right, man.
Love you, man.
Love you too, brother.
You hold it down.
All right. You as well.